On the docket today, the state of Georgia versus Gregory McMichael, Travis McMichael, and William Bryan.
During what was expected to be a routine hearing in the Ahmaud Arbery case, a stunning new revelation against one of his alleged killers.
I can confirm as of yesterday that the GBI has opened an additional parallel investigation into sex crimes that's stemmed from this.
The statement was made during the state's argument opposing bond for William Roddy Bryan, the suspect who captured cell phone video of the confrontation between Arbery and Gregory and Travis McMichael. Bryan's attorney, Kevin Goff, did not address the allegation, but he maintains his client's innocence, arguing he should be released before his trial on felony murder charges.
There is no evidence, not a scintilla of evidence before the court, that he poses any significant risk of committing a felony pending a trial, nor is there any evidence whatsoever, not even a scintilla, that he poses any significant risk of intimidating witnesses or otherwise obstructing the administration of justice.
In support of Bryan's motion for bond, his son, Preston Bryan, was called to the stand.
Are you asking the court to release your father under the least restrictive conditions that will assure his appearance and compliance with the orders of the court?
Yes.
Ahmaud Arbery's mother offered a statement opposing Bryan's release.
He wants this court to allow him to go home. I am asking this court to say no. He cannot go home. He did not allow my son to go home.
Before deciding the question of whether to release Bryan, Judge Timothy Walmsley heard from Gregory and Travis McMichael.
This is to Travis McMichael there at the jail. Mr. McMichael, I understand you're entering a not guilty plea. Is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
The father and son formally pleaded not guilty to the 9-count indictment against them, with charges including murder, felony murder, aggravated assault, and false imprisonment. Sitting across the table from one another wearing masks inside the Glenn County Detention Center, they both have been held without bond since early May.
Bring Mr. Bryan out.
Facing the same charges, Bryan also pleaded not guilty before his lawyer argued for his release, one of several motions before the court Friday. Another one sought to remove the office of Cobb County District Attorney Joyette Holmes from the case. The judge denied all of them.
The order of the court is that bond is denied.
Bryan will remain behind bars pending a trial where he and the McMichaels will face up to life without parole, plus 27 years if convicted of the murder of Ahmaud Arbery. I spoke with Ahmaud Arbery's mother, Wanda Cooper Jones, today, and she told me the family is anxious for a trial date to be set in this case, but the judge saying he can't exactly set a date because of COVID-19 restrictions, but it will happen as soon as possible, Vinny.
Yeah, I mean, we are circling the airport in jurisdictions around the country waiting for things to get going, but I can understand how everyone wants that trial to go forward. You know, 3 defendants, but Roddy Bryan's attorney in court today filing a lot of motions, and it seemed we learned a lot more about Roddy Bryan today, Shanley.
We did learn a lot more. In fact, during the prosecutor's closing argument against the bond motion, I was sitting in the courtroom, the overflow courtroom, full of media from all over the nation, as well as spectators and family of Ahmaud Arbery, and everyone was taken aback in a moment when the prosecutor mentioned another investigation against William Roddy Bryan into possible sex crimes, and that's with the GBI. The GBI actually tweeted today about this investigation, saying that on Wednesday, July 15th, the Glenn County Police Department requested that the GBI initiate a sex crime investigation based on allegations made against William Roddy Bryan Jr. The investigation is active and ongoing. Then it goes on to say, after further discussions, it was determined that the Camden County Sheriff's Office has jurisdiction in the case. The official request for the GBI investigation came from Camden County Sheriff's Office. This was also addressed today by the Cobb County DA prosecuting this case, Joyette Holmes. Let's listen to what she had to say about it.
The sex crimes investigation came out of this investigation, but it's not a case that happened in Cobb County. It's not a case for which we've been appointed to handle any prosecution that could come out of the investigation. So other than that, and knowing that there's a victim as it relates to those charges, I'm not going to discuss that any further.
We don't know a lot about it just yet, but that was a revelation unknown to everyone. The prosecutor saying he only got the confirmation email yesterday, so that is the breaking news coming out of the hearing today.
Yeah, I mean, that just floored a lot of people, a lot of people that, wow, all of this is happening and now this. As soon as I heard that, I was like, I don't think he has any chance of getting out, and obviously, judge did not release him today. Something else that was revealed about Roddy Bryan, some text messages and the type of language on the text messages not helping Roddy Bryan either.
Not, and another reason the prosecutor argued against his bond reduction, or even setting a bond. Now, this stems from something we heard back in the preliminary hearing, Vinny, from the lead investigator of the GBI, Richard Dowell, saying that Roddy Bryan had a racist attitude in his communications when they examined his cell phone, and that was mentioned again today as a possible hate crimes investigation ongoing by the federal government that the prosecutor mentioned today. Let's listen to more of what he had to say about it.
We have a number of text communications that were extracted from this defendant's phone, and they are replete with racist and bigot remarks and communications, which goes directly to the risk of flight and concern that this defendant might pose a risk once the Department of Justice has time to digest this. Repeatedly, this defendant uses the N-word, a term that I had to look up, bootlit, talks about monkey parades, working like an N today. There's just a ton of filth in this defendant's text regarding that. And that's of particular note in consideration in light of the very public fact that there might be additional forthcoming charges, not just the indicted charges at the state level here.
Vinny, ultimately the judge agreed with the prosecutor, no bond for William Roddy Bryan today on that motion on several grounds.
And getting back to those racist text messages, the argument from the prosecutor, just to make it clear, isn't that racist text messages make him a risk of flight, but the fact that he's being investigated for additional charges would make him a risk of flight?
Exactly. He not only is being held on these murder charges for Ahmaud Arbery, but there are two other investigations. The GBI investigation announced today into sex crimes, as well as the federal investigation into possible hate crimes, which goes back to those text messages and racist attitudes, allegedly, of William Roddy Bryan. Plus, the prosecutor said, look, he faces life without the possibility of parole plus 27 years. That's a lot of reason to get out of town.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's why in many of these murder cases you don't see bond, but once in a while you do. All right, Kevin Goff, we spoke to him yesterday. You spoke to him. I spoke to him. One of the issues that he brought up today was the prosecutor, and he wanted the prosecutor bounced off the case. How did that go over in court today when he's making those arguments in front of the judge?
Yeah, Vinny, that was one of the first motions taken up by the judge, and there was some interesting back and forth between Kevin Goff trying to explain his arguments to the judge and the judge really not buying it. Kevin Goff tried to argue that the process and how Tom Durden was recused from the case didn't follow statutory guidelines, and it got pretty technical there. But the judge ultimately saying, no, look, there's nothing here before me that shows anything illegal, improper, or prejudicial to your client, and he adamantly and affirmatively denied that motion. Juliette Holmes remains on the case.
Okay, let's talk about another issue, which is we know what's going on in the country. When the Ahmaud Arbery case happened, it was kind of on the front end of it, then George Floyd, and then things got bigger and bigger and bigger. And that was an issue today as well, not so much in terms of those cases, but in terms of messages on shirts and on face masks. What was discussed today in court relative to that?
Well, Kevin Goff, William Roddy Bryan's attorney, made another motion. He made this at the preliminary hearing and also today, asking that those in the courtroom remove masks that say George Floyd on the mask. It was prejudicial, apparently, to his client to have that in the courtroom. And this was something When I arrived at the courthouse first thing this morning, Vinny, I noticed there were some peaceful protesters out front of the courthouse. Of course, the family and friends of Ahmaud Arbery arriving here with T-shirts on saying "Justice for Ahmaud." Their face masks would say #I run with Ahmaud, and of course George Floyd face mask. Well, Kevin Goff calls out Lee Merritt, the family attorney for Ahmaud Arbery, who wore a face mask with George Floyd's name on it. He tried to convince the judge to have him remove that. The judge did not agree, saying that he felt comfortable being able to arraign the defendants and to hear these motions without being unduly influenced by anybody's mask or T-shirt inside the courtroom. He said he would, however, take it up possibly at the trial or a later date. And after the trial or the hearing today, Lee Merritt did address this issue. Let's listen to what he has to say.
I'm sure that he would like to move this case to a different time and place, maybe when America was great in his mind. George Floyd is an individual who suffered from police brutality. He's not a party to this case. Wearing his name on my face mask is in no way a political statement. It's a distraction from the really serious nature of his defendants or his client's actions, which was the murder of Ahmaud Arbery.
So it was just one of many motions by Kevin Goff today, Vinny, that was denied by the judge.
Big day down in Glynn County, Georgia. Chanley Painter in the middle of all of it, as always. Chanley, thank you so much.